Hi and welcome to Logosol. Today we are outside Logosol and visit Tobias at his place. He's gonna soon introduce himself, but I take some stuff that if you will know some more about Logosol, then you can visit our webpage logosol.com and follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Portable Sawmills. So Tobias, maybe you can tell us a little about you.
Yeah, my name is Tobias. I live just outside Gothenburg in Sweden, and I run a sawmill school here in Sweden, and I love different sawmills and so on. And now we got a car behind us,
Yeah.
but that's things that happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I love woodworking and so on. Everything surrounding woods is in my heart,
Yeah.
so to say.
We always tell you that feel free to make some questions, or if you have any comments, so we will try to answer them in the end of this show.
Absolutely, I answer everything.
Yeah, good.
So, the more questions, you're buried.
Yeah.
So, please feel free to ask me anything.
Good. Can you tell us a little about your background?
Yeah.
Why it start?
My woodworking career, if I could call it that, started when I was a young kid, and my grandfather he was working at a big sawmill, and he was working in a inventory of forest and so on. So I was always with him as a small guy. Around 4, I started to be in his shop. He was building violins.
Yeah.
And so on. So I started lots of turning also. When I was 6-7 years, I was allowed to start turning. So,
Yeah.
and then I lost interest for woodworking for a while, and then it come back. So it had been computers and woodworking for all my life. So
Yeah. What machines do you have from Logosol?
from Logosol, I have several,
Yeah.
but I have from the time I start, I have the old version, the farmer's sawmill that I run with a MS 661 steel and one MS 391. And the next one is the big band sawmill. It's a Logosol B1001. And then I have a newer farmer, the new F2 sawmill with a speed saw on it.
When you started, and we are at your place, it's a very lovely place. What was your goal with?
When we bought the farm, we wanted to start run trainings here, but sawmills training was not one of the things. I love taking photos and so on, so we was starting to think about having photo classes and painting classes, and then the interest for milling just increased and increased, and it was crazy. So now I try to build something surrounding woodworking and sawmilling as a training center.
Yeah. What was your first contact with Logosol? How did you find it?
I mean, since a small young child in Sweden, and you talk sawmill in Sweden, Logosol is probably the brand that you think about when you take a small scale sawmilling in Sweden, at least. For a long time, since I was a kid, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
Victoria started, and when I was around 20, he started the company. So, and all my life I heard Logosol. So the selection went when I started. Needed something. I started with the timber jig.
Yeah.
That was my first contact with Logosol that I bought for myself. I've tried out different sawmill before, but the timber jig was the first thing I got.
Do you remember your first cut?
Yep, maybe not the first. Yeah, it was probably one of the first at least. It was a oak that I was bringing down here.
Yeah.
I was milling up with too small of a chainsaw for the timber jig.
Yeah.
And but the first real thing I did with the timber jig was I was chasing the sill on my house, the bottom log of my timber house
Yeah.
and replaced it. So that was the big
First,
thing.
yeah. What type of wood do you most? So
I prefer, if I have the chance, it's hardwood.
yeah.
I mean, elm, oak, ash is favorite here that grows around where I live, but it's lots of pine and spruce.
Where do you get your
Some I get from my own forest.
Yeah.
I have a small forest here, but most of the wood I cut is from neighbors and surrounding. I buy from some, and some just give me because they have root fallen from the wind, and I go out in the forest and pick it up instead of lying and get rotten. So lots of that comes from that part.
So I understand that you're not just sawing here at
No.
your yard.
No, I run the big band sawmill or the F2. I run mobile, so
Yeah.
I go usually with the big band sawmill. And sometimes they are phone from in the Gothenburg in the city. Someone I bring down some small trees and so on. Then if it's in a backyard or something, I go with a F2 sawmill and just the chainsaw because it's simple to bring in a garden and so on.
Yeah.
So lots of mobile milling.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have some tricks for a regular customer that?
Yeah, I think the one big trick is don't stress. Just check on the log, take a step back and take a thinking before you start milling, especially if it's a big log that with some value in the material. Don't rush through it. Just see it as a nice hobby and just relaxing thing instead of plowing through and think about what you're doing.
We understand that you have this weekend you have some potential buyer here for a course, and can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, this weekend I had 2 sawmill classes.
Yeah.
And we was 18 people total, I think. And this time it was a tryout day. If you're thinking about getting a sawmill and don't know if I want to change saw, electric saw, band saw and so on, I have 4 different sawmill, 3 from Logosol and 1 from a competitor. And they come hit and from early morning, we just mill and mill and mill, and we don't have any end time. When they feel that I have milled enough to understand what type of sawmill I like, so I just stand there and put on the next log and the next log and so on.
Do you see any different, what type of people is coming? Is it?
It's almost, there is the whole spectrum of people. Is from the farmer boy that wants to put up new siding on his barn, to just a hobby sawer that is a hobby woodworker that just want to mill nice wood for his woodworking career, or some people that just want to bring in, instead of this lying rotten in the forest, they want to make something with it.
Yes.
So it's the whole spectrum of people that is here.
So we must be very nice that also to meet all these people and see the.
I really love sharing my life of woodworking and so on. I mean, I love to share what I feel and try to bring other people to enjoy milling, because there is so relaxing if you have a stressful job and can go home and start your sawmill. So that's perfect.
So if we talk about a little more about how do you take care of your wood when after you have cut and?
It all depends on the season. If I would mill like now in the autumn, I run everything in the kiln I have. I have a small kiln. But if I run it in the spring and early summer, then the softwood I always let it air dry, because it's not necessary to run it in the kiln. But usually hardwood I run in the kiln, because I think the quality of the wood gets a little bit better. You don't get it so much movement in the wood when you run it in the kiln.
Yeah, we see that we milled an oak now. It was 90 centimeters.
I want 75
75,
or
yeah.
80 something.
So it's is it only for you, or you're selling, or what are you doing?
Some is for my own. I think this will be a coffee table in my classroom.
Yeah.
But I sell wood also for hobby woodworkers or schools and so on. And I do lots of moldings for special old houses and so on. I floorboards and skirtings and
Yeah.
roofings and so on.
Do you have any special techniques, something when you're milling, or help?
Yeah, I think everyone should throw away the caliper when they start milling, because people start measuring and it's with a caliper, and if it's off by a millimeter in the end or something, they get frustrated and try to adjust everything, and you don't find a perfect board from the sawmill that you do in the planer. So just mill it and see it as, if it differ 1-2 millimeters, it's fine. And if you need it more accurate, you mill it. And even the big sawmills do the same thing. That's why you have milled board in the sawmills, because they rough saw it, and then you get the accuracy in the milling, or in the molding, planing.
Yeah.
So forget and use we call it in Swedish tumstock. I don't know the English word for it.
As we said, you run a project of the day. Can
Yep.
you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, project of the day actually started, me and my wife bought this farm for about 10 years ago. And lots of relatives started asking, what are you doing all day at the farm and so on. So it started with a Facebook page called Dagens projekt in Swedish. And I got more and more followers that want to see what I was doing. And soon I started to get lots of questions in English. So then I thought the Swedish name of my page was a little bit stupid. So I just swapped it to English, and it's the same. Dagens projekt is project of the day in English. Yeah. So it was just a rough translation. And it started with just sharing with friends and family what I was doing. And soon afterwards the YouTube channel started, and this was growing. And now you find me on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. I also run about 25 different Facebook groups surrounding woodworking and sawmilling. So if you have any brand, I'm usually admin of that group.
Yeah.
So I have lots of different, from molding to kiln drying to woodworking groups I run in. So if you go to my Facebook page, Product of the Day, and check groups, then you can see, I think it's 25 different groups.
So how do you manage to be at your regular work?
Yeah, I hope that it was 30 hours a week, a day instead of 24, but I don't know how I manage actually, but when you run Facebook group, you need to find good moderators also that helps you out. You can't do it all by yourself.
So what's your next project then?
There is so many. No, but I will start to reorganize my sawmill area, because I need to, now everything is built to run classes, but I get more and more milling job that I do for myself, and it's not optimized for just standing and milling. So it's optimized for classes. So I will reorganize everything with log tables and so on, so I get a much higher output. I think that's my next big project.
Yeah. And what what are the most fun that you do here, and
there is, I mean, when you have some half rotten spalted wood on the sawmill, and you make the cut, and when you start to look inside and see what you find, sometimes you find a really treasure, and it's always like a treasure hunt. This hardwood with some spalting is my favorite.
I'll probably ask you before, but the best tips, what would a buyer think of when they buy a sawmill?
Try the sawmill out. Find the sawmill that is suitable for you. Everyone has a different body types and working in different ways. So go and try the sawmill and get a feel for them. Don't just read on a Facebook group what people think. You don't try the sawmill, because you're gonna spend hours and hours and hours at it. So it's important to get a mill that you are comfortable with and like working with, because they are really different sawmills. So.
Yeah. Let's see if you had some questions, or do you have something?
We have one customer who made a comment.
Yeah.
It's Michael from the US. He have a B1001 on order with the smart set.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give some comments on that.
Yeah, I would just start by saying great choice. I have a B1001 with the smart set on it. So I really like it. It's really simple, and I get more and more fond of it. It was a bit learning curve going from a normal push mill to have a smart set and so on. But after a while, and I was milled a lot of big size hardwood, and it's worked really good. And the only thing I can say with lots of people, buy good blades when you're milling wide boards. I think that's really important to run a good blade on it. I run almost only Bacchus hard metal blade. I think they are great.
Yeah.
And sometimes if I'm afraid of nails and so on, a lot of metal in them, I run Bacchus beam metal blade.
I think I was asking you about how do you take care of your blades?
Usually, as I said, I run the hard metal blade, and it's use and throw away without sharpening anytime, because you can run. I don't know how long time you can run it. It depends on how much dirt you have in the wood, but usually day out and day in, at least many days without doing anything, just milling. So I don't sharpen any blade at all, almost just a B metal blade I sharpen. And then I have a grind lux I use for that, but I prefer the hard metal blade.
Yeah.
And when it comes to chain, I'm a bit nerd on that one, so there is where you can use the caliper and measure your tooth length and so on.
Yeah, I saw your workshop.
Yeah, so I usually use the Logosol auto grinder, and with a CBN disc on it.
Yeah.
I think it works great, actually. So I can stand and sharpen just for the enjoyment.
Yeah. Get some free time.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's what we have today.
Yeah.
So well, thank you, Tobias.
Thank you.
Very nice that we were able to visit you.
Yeah.
So if you have some more questions, feel free to send us an email at info@logosol.com or visit our webpage logosol.com, or Facebook or Instagram at Logosol Portable Sawmills, where you also can find lots of earlier streams that we have made. And send in if you have something that you want to see or that we would show you. So thank you very much. So see you next week. Then we are gonna have this competition at Logosol. I'm gonna beat you, Andreas. Bye bye.
Bye.
We go milling.